Hey cousin, who you chilling with?
I'm chilling with Monie.
Hey cousins, welcome back to the crib. Audio Monie here. Today officially makes day 12 of 30 days of Monie. We are on our second video of the day. So please do me a favor and smash that like button on your way in as you get comfortable. And if you are here for the first time, consider hitting that subscribe button to become a part of the family. I would love to have you as one of my new cousins. Over here, we get into the trending topics, the music, the entertainment, and a little bit of the mess and the meaning behind it all. So again, get comfortable, grab yourself a drink because we got some things to talk about. So let's talk the Federal Communications Commission, iHeartRadio, and country music, because according to professional OVO mouthpieces, an alleged Radio Rico red button is supposedly on the horizon. Because, what's a day, a week, or even a month without a new narrative spin coming straight out of the embassy? On February 24th, 2025, the Federal Communications Commission, the agency that oversees radio and television, sent a formal letter to Robert Pittman, the CEO of iHeartMedia. And before the letter was sent, it is important to note that just weeks earlier, on February 6, 2025, the FCC had issued an enforcement advisory to radio broadcasters. That advisory specifically warned stations not to engage in covert payola practices, such as pressuring artists to perform for free or at reduced rates in exchange for favorable airplay. Sounds simple. FCC enforcement advisories aren't everyday occurrences. They are not issued weekly or monthly, but rather periodically when the commission sees troubling trends or wants to put the industry on notice. And in this case, the advisory underscored that unreported payola arrangements are violations of both the Communications Act and federal criminal law, making clear that the FCC was once again prioritizing enforcement in this area. The FCC's attention then turned to iHeart because of the iHeartCountry Festival scheduled for May 3rd, 2025 in Austin, Texas. With iHeart controlling hundreds of radio stations nationwide, regulators saw the event as a test case. Did iHeart's dominance in radio come with strings attached for artists? Were performers pressured to take less money in order to secure their spots on playlists? That was the question. And in the letter had certain demands that it requested. Commissioner Brendan Carr's letter demanded transparency. He asked iHeart to provide the following: a list of all artists invited, confirmed, or tentative, the exact compensation each one was receiving versus the typical fee, and whether festival participation had any bearing on airplay. Also, documentation of iHeart's corporate policies on payola and sponsorship identification, training records showing staff were educated on compliance. And the deadline was tight for iHeart to respond to. They had 10 days to respond. So it's pretty safe to say the stakes are high, right? Because payola is not just a violation of FCC rules, it can carry criminal penalties. And here's the key point: payola is illegal when someone is paid or given favors in exchange for airplay or promotion, and that arrangement is not disclosed to the public. The law requires transparency so listeners know if what they're hearing is actually influenced by money or hidden deals. If the FCC found violations, outcomes could range from heavy fines to sanctions against iHeart's broadcast license. This inquiry wasn't just about one event, it was a message to the entire industry that the FCC was back to policing payola aggressively. So, the iHeartCountry Festival went ahead on May 3rd, 2025 as planned. No public boycotts, no cancellations, no enforcement action that weekend. iHeart maintained publicly that festival participation had no impact on airplay, and they said they complied with the FCC's request. But as of September 2025, there's been no public resolution. There's been no fines announced, no sanctions, no published findings. The FCC's probe remains open. Remember, this letter was initially sent back in February. So as of today, September, there's been no update basically. Now, outside of the regulatory world, a new storyline has emerged. On the new Rory and Mal podcast, the host floated the idea of a Radio Rico, a metaphor for a potential industry-wide crackdown, framed like the Rico cases we've seen before in hip-hop, right? Mal, who's often viewed as a voice box for Drake's perspective, and Rory appeared to be connecting the FCC's inquiry to a new discovery they are branding as a Radio Rico. It appears they are tying it directly to the infamous red button Mal claims Drake has at his disposal, a supposed ability to detonate industry secrets. Mal even goes as far as saying something along the lines of, "Do you understand the red button now?" Now, the OVO Coalition wants us to believe the iHeart probe itself connects to this so-called Radio Rico in that it proves the quote-unquote button is finally being pushed by Drake. And this is where the desperation really shows, because every day there's a new so-called red button that didn't exist the week before or last year. They're scrambling to rewrite history, to manufacture some type of win, some way, somehow, as if any of it could erase the reality that Drake got his ass whooped by Kendrick Lamar in a rap battle. Lyrically, production-wise, beat switches, beat choices, strategy, Kendrick dominated in every category. The self-proclaimed war general seasoned with preparation got dog walked from top to bottom. Yet the OVO camp still clings to narratives that downplay Kendrick, his skills, and his reach, pushing the idea that Kendrick only won the battle versus Drake because of industry corruption, quote unquote. And what's pathetic about all of this is that, yes, the industry is shady, very fucking shady. You never root for the labels. Fuck UMG all day and night. But none of this is in good faith. It's all self-serving propaganda to frame Drake as some kind of hero, when the truth is he only suddenly cared about corruption because he finally ended up on the losing side of it. And it has to be exhausting. Nearly 2 years later, they're still inventing narratives that show up one week and disappear the next week. And you know this has to be silly because even Academic on his platform is calling this entire Radio Rico bullshit. So OVOs, I just have to ask, where do we go from here? When do the narratives stop? When will you just let it play out in court? Why is it every week there's a new fucking narrative that didn't connect to the previous narrative? But let's move on. Bottom line here is the FCC did send iHeart a formal letter in February over concerns of payola tied to the May 2025 festival. iHeart denies wrongdoing and the event went forward, but the inquiry remains unresolved. And now it appears podcasts, the Rory and Mal podcast, are spinning an FCC inquiry into a Radio Rico storyline, with Drake's red button theory at the center, despite no factual connection between his lawsuit and this case. Because I don't understand where else would they get this from. In short, a very real federal inquiry is underway, but the Radio Rico narrative is just commentary layered on top of it. So cousins, let me know your thoughts on today's topic. Do you think the FCC will eventually come down hard on radio, or will this just fade into the background? And do you buy the Radio Rico angle, or is it simply Mal keeping Drake's name attached to every industry scandal in order to appear as if he's ahead of the game? Before heading out, please smash that like button and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. I will do my very best to keep y'all up to date with this story and bring you the facts if anything comes from it. Be sure to check the description for the link to join my Discord. And if you would like to support my channel directly, a link to my Cash App and my Amazon wishlist to help me build my YouTube studio is listed in the description. Thank you for watching this video all the way through. Y'all be safe, and I will catch y'all in my next one. Later.
Hey cousin, who you chilling with?
I'm chilling with Monie.